Last night, I had a nightmare about putting on TV makeup by myself.
I'm glad that's how the recording starts, with our nightmares.
I woke up sweating. And I can still see what my face looked like in my dream, and it was not a pretty sight, man.
Mm-hmm. We may have spoken about this on the BroadsCast before, but I sometimes forget if I'm leaving a stadium or I'm leaving the studio and I do some mundane errand. You walk into the grocery store and you're like, why is everyone looking at me like I'm having a great day? And you're like, oh, I still have a full face of makeup. And my kids yesterday, I didn't do that, but just walking into the house, instead of being like, oh, wow, mommy, you look beautiful. It was like, mama, what's on your face? Like, I can see the powder. Like, they were kind of recoiled because I was wearing so much makeup.
Milo's done similar to like, whoa, you look different.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of nice, isn't it? Everyone is looking at online beautiful. Everyone does look beautiful, but all the work that's been done to get put back down to ground by your kids being like, please take that off.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Yeah. I'm much more familiar. I want you kind of regular every day when you wake up, which is nice to be validated for that. We were talking about being validated, Claire, about Kaylee Hunter and doing well, and you may be predicting that. But before we get into all that, this is the BroadsCast. I'm Amy Walsh. We've got Rhian Wilkinson here, and we've got Claire Rustad from her parents' loft, hot spotting it.
Yeah. Because they won't pay for internet.
Any BroadsCast is a hot spot, but it's good to find you guys again. Good to chat with you again.
I feel like speaking to the two of you, I've heard your voices quite a lot recently. It's been really nice.
Oh, yeah, it has been cool to kind of lend our voices to the Northern Super League kicking off, and we're going to dive into all that. But Rhian, I wanted to ask you, I think we haven't spoken, but I talked about it on Footy Prime about the last window where you lost that opening game to Denmark with the Welsh women's national team 2-1, but then a great result where you were able to tie Sweden 1-1. And then you have upcoming UEFA Women's Nations League versus Denmark again on May 30th and Italy on June 3rd. So maybe just give us a little bit of an update about you, how you're doing, and then what's kind of on the docket for the Welsh women's national team.
Yeah, thanks. It's been an exciting time with the team. I think that they're growing in confidence and belief. And, we've been playing some really impressive teams, and we've kept games within one goal. I think from my side, and I think the teams were still disappointed. We're looking for a win, and that's a big step for us. But we've got two more opportunities against fantastic opposition. So two more games in League A. And we need points from both those games. If we only get a tie and a win, then it still results in other groups that will determine whether we stay up. And then we have another camp, which is just pre-Euros. It's a really strange window, hard to get the right kind of games in there. So we're actually not playing an international game in that window pre-Euros, and then we're straight into Switzerland. So it's right around the corner now.
Well, speaking of strange windows, is it one of those like Art Deco buildings where it's like triangular shaped? Like, what would this strange window look like if it was on a building?
Well, it would look like probably a tiny porthole because you've just finished a FIFA window that 3 weeks before. You're going into the Euros, so you don't want to play any of your opposition, but equally you don't want to play anyone who's not going to be the exact right preparation for you. So an example would be we did get a fantastic opportunity to play a top African nation, which would have been fantastic for my team, but they're not the preparation that I'm looking for the Euros. So there's types of games that are played in Europe that aren't the same. So you just have to try and find the right kind of preparation game. And that's always a challenge. And I say a porthole because it's small. The teams that have found opposition probably already knew that they were going to be qualifying. We were one of the last teams to qualify. So then you're scrambling, and I'd rather not just throw a game in there if it's not what we need. So we're not playing one.
What does your preparation in that window look like leading up to the Euros? Because you said it's kind of sandwiched between two kind of major events. So what does your preparation for your team look like in that window? Like, what are your focuses going to be?
Well, we're going to Portugal, so just get the team together, keep it still pretty relaxed, because as you head into the Euros, stress, pressure, everything starts going up, scrutiny. So keeping it relaxed, get the team together, but great training, lots of tactical implementation, and then a few little psychological preparations as well. So I think you and I, the three of us know that major tournaments throw up the most interesting challenges, and people think major tournament is going to be slick, but actually more problems occur in major tournaments than one-off games, because one-off games, everyone's looking at it, everyone's doing the job to make sure it works well, whereas major tournaments, just so many things can go wrong. And we've all been on those, like, on the way to Beijing, we had to sort of commandeer the bus and pull it over because they wouldn't let us go to the bathroom. So we all just force them to stop, and we all peed next to the, there's games that we've been to that were canceled on our way to the game. We've had flooding put us back 2 days. Like all these things have happened in major tournaments that my team probably hasn't experienced. So we've got to make sure that we're ready for things we can't control.
Well, and getting used to like the hurry up and wait of some of it too, right? So the kind of pressure to get to the stadium, and then you sit there for 2 hours, and like getting used to that kind of start stop. I always found that sometimes a little bit hard, but that's kind of, it's a hard thing to train or to prepare for. But maybe if you're right, just being prepared for kind of any bump in the road. Yeah.
I have a great sports psych with the team, who I've known for a long time. And so we're not just planning the technical, tactical sort of periodization, but also like what are we talking about? What are we implementing? Even media, social media. My team have not had that scrutiny before. So, the trolls come out, but equally there's a lot more eyes across your thoughts. So do you need to share that thought? Lots of things where they maybe haven't had the same level of eyes across what they've put online before. So we've definitely ramped up that kind of preparation.
Rhian, I love that we're 7 minutes into this podcast, and already you've given me new nomenclature for this FIFA window that I'm going to forever refer to it as a porthole, as a women's international window, and now eyes on thoughts.
That was a pre-UEFA tournament, Euro tournament, not the tournament itself. Just if you're going to quote me, nomenclature. What are you pulling out of here, Amy? I thought you were.
No, it's out my ass as per usual. But before we move on to the Northern Super League and your thoughts on that. Maybe just to bookend your thoughts going into this historic major tournament for the Welsh women's national team, which you brought them to. You were able to qualify them, and in this experience, I mean, you're only going to get that major tournament experience once you've lived it. So you guys are in a really difficult group with England, France, and the Dutch. So how do you do that? Like, you can't manufacture it, right? So is there anything that you're doing, or who are you relying upon? And when you're looking at your depth of squad, that's going to carry you through those matches?
We have the perfect group. I know, look, there's no easy group, and we definitely have a harder group. Yeah. But I think it's our perfect group because this team has never had expectation on them. And no one expects, outside of our environment, no one expects anything of us. So what a wonderful opportunity to arrive on the scene and just show up, and all you can demand of yourself is that we're proud of ourselves at the end of this. And to be proud of it, we've got to play the style that we want to play. I think everyone knows that we've got like 3 top teams in our group, but how's my team going to learn if we're not playing the very best? Mm-hmm. And I think they've surprised themselves with some of the results in our League A. Like Denmark beat us at home last window, and they killed time the whole last 5 minutes, like taking it to the corner flag. Denmark is a top team. They're killing time against Wales because they're trying to get the win, and they celebrate like it means something, and it does. They should. Sweden, we fight them to the very end. We should have probably won that game and not tied it. Like, this is where the team's at. So I don't see any reason why we shouldn't think that we'll probably surprise a few people in the tournament.
That's great. Well, wishing you the best of luck, and we'll be checking back in with you in advance of those Euros. But if we shift gears to the Northern Super League, and there's so many opportunities, I think, here for wordplay in terms of segments for the podcast. So I've so far been working with the Northern Super Summary. I'm also open to a Northern Super Synopsis, but maybe here, I'm missing an S word, but I just want your general feelings, because we're about to start week 4. So that will be tomorrow. Week 4 kicks off with Halifax traveling across the country to face the Vancouver Rise at Swangard. But just, I mean, Rhian, you posted a picture. I don't know where you were, but you're all over the place constantly, but you were on the East Coast, you're on the West Coast, you were in Europe, and you're doing things for the Welsh FA, but you managed to catch some Northern Super League. So what's your just general feeling, and what were you feeling on the day watching this league kick off? Because you were pretty instrumental in getting it off the ground. We know that Diana spearheaded it, but you played a pretty massive role in getting that going yourself.
Well, thank you. Definitely didn't, but I
stop it. You did.
Look, I played a part in it in terms of I worked for them for a bit, and I loved it. I'm so proud. I still am. Every time I watch a game, I've surprised myself by how emotional I get. I think obviously Diana is such a great friend of all of ours, and knowing how much she's sacrificed to make this happen. And I don't use sacrifice lightly. I think I don't like when athletes say sacrifice. I've spoken about that. These are choices you make. Diana, most of us have been waiting forever for someone to put a league in place for us. And then for the next generation, it just didn't happen. She tried to do it. So many barriers, so many roadblocks. People told her she didn't have the right credentials. She just went and got her master's and an MBA. She just went and got a UEFA diploma in management because people kept saying she didn't know what she was doing. And to see what she's achieved, and at great cost. I mean, she has put in the hours. It's unbelievable how much she's done for this. And watching it come to life. The games itself, it's just a first league, like a first time that these teams are really playing together. And it's not clean, it's not perfect, but it's raw and it's Canadian, and there's Canadians on display that I've coached through the youth systems, and seeing them with the next generation in the stands and what this league is going to do is probably one of the prouder moments I've ever had. And big thank you to two of you, because it is a partnership. There's Diana and what she's done. There's the teams and what they've done. And then there's the commentary. There's the research happening behind the scenes. There's the professionalism everyone's handling it with. All of it is top notch. And I'm a huge fan no matter where I am in the world.
Claire, how were you feeling on the day? Because you were at that inaugural game, and I don't think we've checked in with you to see. I know that you're not big on the feelings, or at least exhibiting them outwardly. I want you to dig into the feelings, Claire Rustad.
Rhian Ahmed just keeps threatening to hug me, and I'm like, no. So yeah, I love the word, like the raw comment, because there was an aspect of that I really felt in a good way, because I think what it translated into was play there was zero complacency. And it really felt like, I'm like going into analyst mode right away. It really felt like every team just wanted to go forward and wanted to play. And there was no, it just this kind of desire to drive forward and attack. And the product on the field was great. What it looked like on TV was great too. I mean, I think that the production value's been really good too. It felt really, everyone just felt happy, which was nice, and it was really fun to be a part of it. It felt like, I said this on the broadcast, but I just felt relieved that it was finally happening. But at the same time, I think Amy and I both were like, well, this isn't the finish line. Like that feeling of wanting more was still there, which I think is good, because I think that will continue to drive expansion and recruitment and all of that. And I hope that that's felt by all of the clubs. But it's been just really fun to watch. And it feels like, I mean, I've got high school friends from Salt Spring who live in Toronto, who took their kid to the game. And it's fun to see all of these things sort of, I'm not the best social media person at all, but it's fun to see those things kind of pop up. And there were a couple of my brother's high school friends who were waving at us when we were down on the set at BC Place. And and the kid who my sister taught, like, it was just a really cool mix of people. That's what really felt That's what really felt great about it. It felt there was a community. It felt like it had this instant community. But I'm really impressed with the level. I'm impressed with the attitude of the players and this real willingness to go forward and try things, even if they don't do it, even if it doesn't, they don't get the result they want, but they're willing to try. And that feels good. It didn't feel like any of the players were playing afraid, which is nice. I love it.
For sure. Yeah, there's a fearlessness about all of it. And the league tagline, and you just mentioned it there, Claire, that it's just the beginning. It's, I think, the perfect way to sum up what it is like a little mini peak. If you look at progress and they're like, you zoom out or you zoom in rather, and you see all the ebbs and the flows, like this is a little peak, and then it's just going to keep skyrocketing, which is really exciting. And that not only speaks to the standard on the pitch and how that's going to grow, but it's everything around it, like this ecosystem that we've talked about a lot in terms of giving opportunities to women retiring after they play, or anybody who isn't a player, but they want to work in sport and they want to be in ops, or they want to be an admin, or they want to be a referee, or in broadcasting like us. Like there are opportunities to go in green and have the talent and have the wherewithal, but then to actually practice your craft and to hone it. And this opportunity, or this league, is going to give lots of women that opportunity, and maybe even in leadership and ownership and front office, which is so cool. Mm-hmm. And like going back to my own experience of the first day, Diana had mentioned that she felt almost that it was a dissociative experience where she was watching it play out, but it wasn't hers, like it wasn't the league. And I felt that a little bit too, that I'd remove myself almost emotionally from it because I wanted to do so well by way of the players, or I wanted to make sure that I was helping the product shine in a way in my own role. I don't know if you felt like that, Claire, but holy shit, did I ever get smacked in the face with all the feels yesterday at the Montreal home opener. Because like that, I'm going to get emotional again, but like I've played so many hours of soccer on that pitch. Mm-hmm. So like to see it transformed into the first stadium that's conceived of for women's professional soccer was so cool. And to see the response and to see the culture that each of these markets are building is remarkable. And that's only going to start growing. Like it's day one, it's week one, we're on to week 4. And there's all these little victories, all these little wins, all these firsts, but it's really just the foundation. Right, Rhi? Like, what's your sense of it? Like looking at the little communities that are budding in each of these markets.
Yeah, there's not much more to add. I think, Amy, you said it. Like these are the fields that we grew up playing on and dreaming about. And your sister and I played for the team there. Like that's seeing all the. I mean, you and I are from Montreal, so that first game yesterday was really special, and because we know that community, and I think we know our own personal roadblocks in that game. But also what I've loved is I think there's really good people that have been foundational to start these teams. There's people that believed in Diana's vision and believed in what was right to help support female athletes, not just soccer. This league's going to help, just like the PWHL has helped. Like it's just, there's
WNBA too.
WNBA,
right.
It's coming to Toronto. It's coming, right? But what I mean is in Canada, like these leagues are going to help all sport. And these owners, what I've liked seeing is that new owners and new investors continue to flock to this league because, your reach is only what it is. Like Diana was like, she did so much work, and so did her team to get this off the ground. But now the product is there. And as you said, the production value, but equally the level of commentary, the level of knowledge, the level of pronunciation, the level of research that's gone into making sure that these players, their stories are known, has meant that it's getting across more eyes and people are seeing it. So what a great launch to what is going to be, as you've said so eloquently, the beginning of something that's going to be massive for generations, I think.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to see. Claire Rustad, I mentioned it right off the top, but you're talking about Kaylee Hunter. Has there been anybody else, and you could double down on the Hunter aspect here, or as like a player that has stood out to you, but has there been anybody through the games that you've been able to watch so far that has stood out, either a Canadian talent or an international one, or just somebody that you believe is emblematic of the league so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll focus just on not that the international talent has been fantastic. I just want to kind of focus on the Canadian talent, just because part of the league is to bring in some international talent. I think that's great, but I think a really large part of it is to create a development pathway and create these networks so that the game is more accessible to as many people as possible. So I think it's the great part is seeing players like Holly Ward who we talked about this before, but age out of the NCAA, age out of the youth national teams, and then are in this hole that a lot of people fell into when we were playing and didn't have a professional environment to go in, couldn't necessarily play kind of in the highest leagues in Europe necessarily, aren't getting picked up by those clubs, and then there's just nothing here for them. So I think it's fun to see players like her shine. I think it's also fun to see the really young ones like Kaylee Hunter step into their own in this league. And I think she'll just continue to grow and grow and grow. I see that there's a lot of hunger in both those players. And a lot of desire to really showcase their talent. And again, it's not perfect. It's not going to be perfect. That's not really the point of this, although I am starting to get expectations. So I mean, I was only contracted to do the first game, so you're all safe for right now. But I am starting to get
coming for you.
I am starting to get expectations of what the level should look like here, because that's what I've been presented with. So you have to live up to that. But I think that seeing some of the young kids go out, and again, there's that fearlessness. Like there's just no shame about making mistakes and really just trying things. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what Hunter's got up her sleeve for sure.
Yeah, I think that the fearlessness thing is a really good and apt kind of description of what we're seeing in terms of an attitude and a mindset of all of these teams, but also backed by the coaches. So Katembo has that tragic giveaway that's basically slips Boychuk in at their home opener at BMO Field. And she herself forgets about it, plays on, but also Milanovic to go with her again the next game. Like that's the trust and the belief in these players. I think that you want to see, right? That they're not vilified for it. They're not sat on the bench, that there's the belief to keep going. And I think you even see that in the Montreal Roses. Fullback Haley Whitaker was not very good that first game. I had concerns about their fullbacks and Smith on the other side. And the next game, when they were playing at Swangard, she was outstanding. She gets on the board. She gets their opening goal where they had the 3 in the first half. But beyond just the goal involvement, her play was just a next level. And then at Stade Boreal yesterday, she was involved. She's the one that serves up that header for Tanya Boychuk before she does the round off back flip, which is long live a great highlight, right? You love the goal, you love the header, but can you do a backflip every week, please? Like that would be unbelievable, I think, for the social media team. But players like that, who again, Robert Rasitoyu, trust her again to go out, and he understands what she is capable of. And she's not sat on the bench either. But Rhian, I wanted to shift gears slightly because in the meantime, NWSL, Claire was talking about pathway, and that's what you were involved with the Northern Super League before you took the job with Wales. NWSL has put in a request for Division 2. So is that important? I mean, you have experience coaching in an NWSL. They don't have their own academies. You have these youth players who are signing on. There's no place for them to really play. So is this a key step in their own development? And do you see perhaps down the line the Northern Super League doing something similar, or just maybe leaning on academies and investment that way in their own pathways?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is just opinion, but I'm such a huge believer in pathways and giving opportunity. So some clubs do have academies in the NWSL, but you develop young players and then they would have to go in the draft. So you could do all the work to develop a player and then they go play for another team. Mm-hmm. And well, then what's the incentive for owners to put the money into the academies? So then they were failing these academies unless they were attached to a club, so there was different ways around it. But I think it was a huge miss on their part. I advocated strongly to have academies start with the top teams, which is a huge financial ask of the ownership. So I understand why that hasn't happened, but I think the conversations are already starting with the NSL just to make sure that very quickly there's a team underneath where players can be developing. I don't think we're ready in Canada to go all the way down to youth, nor do I think we need to interrupt the club systems in the provinces. There's a lot of politics in that we don't need to get involved with. But I do think if the purpose of the NSL, and I think it is, I'll admit readily that I was against so many international signings for the league. But it came back to me that why would you restrict owners on year one? Let's try and get as many opportunities as possible to bring players in, which I agree with. But I think that this is a league that we want to be developing our Canadians in. So many of these players, you highlighted it, Amy, or was it Claire? Like this, it was Claire. Like this is when we would have to retire. You finished university, you maybe don't have a second passport. There's nowhere for you to play because you haven't played for the senior team yet. So you retire. And now we're seeing players like Holly Ward, Tanya Boychuk, Christabel Aduro, all these players that are coming through now who had nowhere to play. And that's what this league is for. And the academies have to be a part of that. Like there's a win. Like, what if you don't make that? There's not many teams yet, right? So how do we give as many opportunities as possible to develop Canadians and to give them an opportunity to develop? Because I was a late developer, and I speak about it often, and I think Vanessa Gilles does as well. So is she. Like this is it's not a one-off story. It's a very common story that players develop at their own rates, and some of them it's later, and that's not possible in our current system. So academies are a must, in my humble opinion.
And it's giving opportunities for sure, but also credence to the youth sports system, which, I played at McGill in 1996, and it was just, you had your top players, but then the floor of those teams, like players had never played elite before. So you're seeing now, I think, a rising standard in that league, and players like Marika Gay, who had like the historic first goal for the Halifax Ties, who came through the Quebec youth sports system. Steph Hill and Laurie Thibault, other players, Mara Bouchard, who came from McGill and are able to sign pro immediately. So that is, again, what you're saying, what this league is for. But before we move off this, and actually we're going to probably wrap with this, do you see the 8 internationals as the cap? And I understand in year one wanting to remove restrictions for ownership and build out the best possible roster. And so maybe you lean on internationals a little bit more. Do you see that maybe by year 5? Do you see that number coming down a little bit?
Yeah, I would imagine it'll come down. But I do think the argument from the ownership was absolutely correct. I mean, like that was my job was soccer, was about the game. And so that was my lens, and absolutely the ownership lens was correct in that they needed to have as least barriers as possible to put the best possible team on the pitch. But I do think by year 5 we'll see a lot of. I love that we're talking about year 5, by the way.
Yeah,
that's how things have started.
Expectations, Claire. We're doing it.
We're there. Yeah.
Yeah, things will change, I'm sure.
Yeah, Claire. Do you think maybe? I mean, your experience. You've talked about being kind of in a remote community and being off the radar in that regard, in terms of player recruitment and the way that players are scouted and seen. Do you think, and maybe we're not talking year 5, but maybe between now and then, that you see more players sticking around because like there's more of a viable pathway here for those younger players, that NCAA is no longer the carrot, like the carrot is here at home in Canada. So do you see that if like somebody from Salt Spring Island or a more remote community, they might have to move to more of a hub, but those hubs have expanded. It's more than just Vancouver and Toronto and Montreal. Like we're able to spread it more across the country and maybe able to ID who those players are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there'll probably be a knock-on effect with Canadian universities too, I hope. Because why you don't need to go to the States anymore, right? And there's so many Canadian universities with fantastic programs, and so you can get your education here and play and then jump into the NSL right after that, right? So I think I think it will. The cool part about it is it'll vary the pathway you can take. We all had this prescribed. You have to go to the NCAA. There's no other high level opportunity for you. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was like, well, I hope you made the national team by then. So like it was a very prescribed pathway. I was trying to figure out how many years ago that was.
Don't do it. Don't say the number.
Well, like 15 to 20 years ago, right? There was a way, I know. Oh my God. But that's how you got there. And I think this is the cool part about this is that some kids will be able to kind of choose the way they go. Yes, I do hope that, and again, it requires us to think probably more than 5 years down the line, like probably 5 to 10 years down the line, when we're talking about how these development pathways coming out of these clubs are formed and what they do. And I hope when I hear academy, I think that costs a lot of money, right, for the player. And I just hope that we expand this to being as inclusive as possible about anybody for any socioeconomic status, because I think when we start charging a crazy amount of money for kids to play in academies, we lose a ton of talent. So I hope that there's an inclusivity that applies there as well. But yeah, the small town thing, like I fell ass backwards in a national team, right? And I benefited because I had the privilege of parents who were able to drive me everywhere. And there's a huge amount of privilege in that. And they taught me how to ride the bus across Vancouver at 13, with no cell phones, by the way.
Right.
But yeah, but I benefited from the fact that I had family I could stay with in Vancouver who could also drive me to games. So, but not everybody has that. So it's really hard to break out of smaller town. And Salt Spring, when we call it remote, I mean, it's not that far from a major urban center, but it takes a really long time to get to one. And I think more of communities kind of in Up Island, even when I say northern BC, not even all that far north. And how do we access those players? How do we give them the opportunity to jump into the development pathway and to get seen by club coaches and national team coaches and that type of thing? I mean, I know there are pathways that do exist to a certain extent, but I just hope that this league is the beginning of an expansion of that.
Yeah, so maybe Salt Spring isn't that remote, but is not nearly as remote as Halifax, right? Not having the hometown advantage that we expected, because it takes a ferry to get there, right? It takes 5 days to travel to Halifax. We will not get into that.
Amy, Salt Spring is actually an island, though.
This is true. Actual island.
It's in the name.
Yes. All right. There's so many other things that I wanted to chat about. Ashley Lawrence, Keisha Buchanan winning another trophy. FIFA funding an ACL study, finally. Thank you, FIFA. But Rhian, before we say goodbye, dear listeners, thanks for listening and for watching. Just your thoughts on Desi Scott at their home opener at TD Place, getting her first ever professional goal.
Oh, that was, first of all, the walk-in DJ is so big. Like that was amazing. But no, that was so happy for Desi. I think she thought she was retiring. Then this opportunity came and she extended her career. And then to get the goal on the home opener, little fairy tale moment there. It's pretty special.
Yeah, I think that's striking, like the balance of these players, like your Quinns, like your Desi Scotts, like your Aaron McLeods, that are the links between the national team fandom and recognizable names and legends of the game, and then the Kaylee Hunters and the Esther Okoronkwo's and the Tanya Boychucks and the Latifa Abdus and like all of these other players that haven't had their moment yet, but that's on the docket. Like, I think it's just perfect that she was able to have her moment there. And maybe she'll have another goal when she's honored in her hometown of Winnipeg. So the next window when the women's national team will play Haiti, first off in Winnipeg and then in Montreal, which is great. Montreal with another national team game. Looking forward to that. But I think as long as you guys don't have anything else to add, that we will end it there.
No, thank you.
Yeah, really good to chat with you guys. I would love to do it more often, but hopefully we'll have a Northern Super synopsis coming at you maybe on a weekly basis, maybe with a rotating cast, because Rhian Wilkinson, she's a busy woman, and Claire Restad, she's a doctor. That's right. All right. Thanks, BroadsCast fans. Cheers for listening and watching, and we'll catch you sometime soon.
Bye.
Bye.